with game week 23, we realized that with the wrong captaincy choice, you wouldn't be seeing so many greens. What is it going to be for game week 24? So I think there are so many factors that are going to play out for game week 24. We are going to be looking at massive returns from some players who have not been in the form. We are going to have some massive returns from players we expect to deliver, and we're also going to have some few differentials who are going to show up. So let's get into it. Let's see what game week 24 brings to us. So game week 24, we I think there's going to be a game week where we have form going to align with minutes. So we have players in form who have been playing their minutes are going to deliver. So let's see how the fixtures are going to are looking like heading into game week 24. So it begins on Saturday where Brighton and Hove Albion they take on Everton. Then we have Leeds United, they take on Arsenal, Wolves taking on Bournemouth, Chelsea take on West Ham, Liverpool play Newcastle. Then it ends on then Sunday we have Aston Villa, they take on Brentford. We have Manchester United playing Fulham. We have Nottingham Forest, they take on Crystal Palace, and the biggest match of the round, Spurs v City. So then it ends on Monday. That's Sunderland they take on Burnley. So it's going to be a very interesting game week. I believe some fixtures to look at or have some few players. You'd want to have some players from the Leeds Arsenal match. You'd want to have some players from the Brighton Everton match. You'd also want to consider some players from the Chelsea West Ham match. And why not also get some players from the Spurs City match? It could be a plus for you as well. And most definitely consider some players from the Manchester United Fulham match. That would also be a plus for you. A differential from the Brighton Everton match won't be a loss. So you could also look at that. So let's head into the FDL. So I see most managers have do you have your wild card active? You should really consider this with your wild card active. It could be a plus or a minus with your wild card active. So looking at the next 3 to 4 game weeks, you'd want to consider your team or build your team around some fixtures there, and it could be a plus for you. So we see Arsenal have some good fixtures for the next 3 game weeks. We have Aston Villa having some tricky fixtures, but you could have a player from there. It's not going to be so bad. We have Bournemouth, they have some tricky fixtures, having already lost one of their star performers. Let's see how that goes. We have Brentford, they have some tricky fixtures coming up. Brighton have some tricky fixtures coming up, or Burnley have some tricky fixtures coming up. They've not been in too good a form, so you'd want to also be very cautious. We have Chelsea, they have some very good fixtures coming up, so most definitely consider some defenders, attackers, or midfielders from Chelsea, and you should be good to go. Crystal Palace have not been in good form. They have some tricky fixtures coming up. Everton have some tricky fixtures coming up, but this is a team that they've showed massive performance over the past few game weeks. You could have a defender who could easily give you some defensive contribution, or even a keeper who would give you the defensive contributions. A midfielder who could give you a goal or an assist. So you could consider that as well, because they've proven to be a little bit difficult to break down. Fulham as well, so most definitely consider that, even though they have some tricky fixtures coming up. Leeds United, they proved they tried. They've been inconsistent for a while, but let's see whether they will be able to come up. They'll be able to come back. They have some tricky fixtures as well. Liverpool as well, some tricky fixtures. So let's see how it goes. But if you want to be bold, you could go for Szoboszlai, who has really held the team so far this season. Salah is back, so would want to consider Salah as the weeks go by, but not now. You want to hold off for Salah for now. You'd also want to consider some City players. I feel City, even though they've had some kind of tricky run, this would be their time to really pick up the pace and capitalize on the gap that has been closed between themselves and Arsenal. So you could consider some City players with the new transfers that have come in. So an attacker won't be bad. A defender, if you want to be really bold. Then you have Manchester United. They've beaten City, they've beaten Arsenal, but heading into the mid game fixtures, let's see how that goes. So an attacker won't be bad, a midfielder or a defensive midfielder too won't be bad. Newcastle struggles here and there, tricky fixtures coming up. Nottingham Forest tricky fixtures, Spurs as well tricky fixtures, Sunderland tricky fixtures, but they've proven to be very very tough. They've not been beaten at home yet this season, so you also want to consider them. New West Ham are trying to pick up their feet, so let's see how that goes. So them Wolves are trying to pick up, so let's see that's how that goes. So if you have your wild card active, kindly go through this, get your team set around the teams that have some good fixtures heading into the next 2 to 3 game weeks, and I'm sure you'd be smiling. So the FDL, if you want to look at the most selected players for game week 24, you have Bruno Fernandes leading the chart, you have Mbeumo in the mix, Joao Pedro in the mix, Enzo, Dogu, who picked up a muscle injury, but let's see how it goes for him, Semenyo as well, Wilson, Chaloba. So this is a team on its own. Gabriel Rice, Abosalai. So this can easily make up a good solid first 10, first 11 for you, and you should be good to go. So most definitely have some players from here. So if the masses are going for these players and you know something is right, then you'd want to also consider some differentials. Very important, very very important when it comes to differentials. So these are the top selected players, so you want to go a little bit downwards to see how they are also faring, and you could get some good differentials from here as well. So you look at that, you realize them players with a few so differentials. So you'd see Bowen with an 8.3, he could be a differential for you. You have Cunha with 7.7, very good differential for you as well. So you Neto with 6.3, good differential for you. So you go through, you realize you could easily get some differentials. You could get your first 11 that will be based on your previous analysis, and you'll be set to go. So some players we are looking at heading into game week 24 would want to really look at some players from City, want to look at some players from Manchester United, and most definitely some players from Chelsea, and see how they are going to help us heading into game week 24. So for my team heading into the game week, I'm going with a 3-5-2 formation. My midfield all starting. So I have Raya, I have Tarkowski, Timber, Michele. So that is my goalkeeper in defense. Heading into midfield, I have the likes of Mbeumo, I have Declan Rice, Wilson, Semenyo, Rogers. So I had to bring in Semenyo back after that performance. I had to bring him back. So I took Bruno Guimaraes out, as Newcastle have been struggling a bit. They have some tricky fixtures coming up too as well. So I brought in Semenyo, as they look. I believe they are going to pick up some form with the new signings and everything. So I have Semenyo back, and with the attack, I have Haaland and Joao Pedro. So they are leading my attack. Haaland with the captaincy band, that was a very bold decision I made. We'll get into that before we end. So on the bench, we have the likes of Petrovic, Thiago, Van Hecke, we have Van der Ven as well. So Van der Ven, I'm going to eventually take him out, but I would also need to be very conserved with my points deduction, as it won't be urgent now. So I just have him on the bench, and I'll eventually take him out. Thiago, would see how that goes along the line. But for now, this is my team heading into game week 24. So that is how it's looking. I also brought in Mbeumo in. I took out Indaya. So looking at the stats, Mbeumo has would provide higher returns as compared to Indaya, and they have a good run to also coming up. New manager, new philosophy. So I would also want to try him out. You could also have a differential or you could have a different player for Manchester United in Bruno Fernandes. You could also consider Dogu, who has also proven himself. You could look at Cunha as a differential. You could also look at Amad Diallo as a differential, and that could also be a plus for you heading into the game week. So for captaincy choices, I think for game week 24, you would want to look at these players. So Saka from Arsenal. We also want to consider Bruno Fernandes from Manchester United. You also want to consider Joao Pedro from Chelsea. So these are my top picks for captaincy for this game week. And differentials, we'll be looking at Mbeumo. We'll be looking at Declan Rice. So these are my differentials for the game week. Mbeumo, Declan Rice. But for the top captaincy choices, I'm looking at Saka. I'm looking at Bruno Fernandes. I'm also looking at Joao Pedro. I personally went to Haaland because I want to be bold. I want to be extra bold. To have an extra bold decision, I'm going with Haaland, and I believe it's going to provide massive returns for me. Before we go, kindly let us know in the comment section who you also plan on giving your captaincy to, and let's share our experience heading into game week 24. I hope for massive greens for all. We are out.